Perry Mason is an American period drama television series based on the character of the same name created by Erle Stanley Gardner, which premiered on June 21, 2020, on HBO. The series was developed and written by Rolin Jones and Ron Fitzgerald and stars Matthew Rhys in the title role. In July 2020, the series was renewed for a second season. The series focuses on the origin story of famed defense lawyer Perry Mason. In 1932, Los Angeles is prospering while the rest of the U.S. is recovering from the grip of the Great Depression. Down-and-out private investigator Perry Mason is struggling with his trauma from the Great War and being divorced. He is hired for a sensational child kidnapping trial, and his investigation portends major consequences for Mason, his client, and the city itself. Matthew Rhys as Perry Mason, a private investigator. Juliette Rylance as Della Street, the loyal and driven legal secretary of E.B. Jonathan. Chris Chalk as Paul Drake, a beat cop. Shea Wiggum as Pete Strickland, Mason's work partner. Tatiana Maslany as Sister Alice McKeon, a preacher and leader of the Radiant Assembly of God. John Lithgow as Elias Burchard E.B. Jonathan, a struggling attorney and regular employer of Perry Mason. Gail Rankin as Emily Dodson, the mother of Charlie Dodson, a 1-year-old child who is mysteriously kidnapped. Nate Cordry as Matthew Dodson, a grocery store owner whose 1-year-old son, Charlie, is kidnapped. Veronica Falcon as Luke Gibbs, a pilot who is in a sexual relationship with Mason. Jefferson Mays as Virgil Sheets, an attendant at the city morgue and a friend of Mason's. Andrew Howard as Joe Ennis, an LAPD detective. Eric Lang as Gene Holcomb, an LAPD detective. Robert Patrick as Herman Baggerly, Matthew's father, a powerful man who hires E.B. and Mason to investigate the kidnapping. Stephen Root as Maynard Barnes, the district attorney of Los Angeles County. Lily Taylor as Bertie McKeon, Alice's mother and advisor. Matt Frewer as Judge Fred Wright, the judge in the Charlie Dodson murder case. Diara Kilpatrick as Clara Drake, Paul's pregnant wife. David Wilson Barnes as Elder Brown, a member of the Radiant Assembly of God. Taylor Nichols as Elder/Deacon Eric Seidel, a member of the Radiant Assembly of God. Karen Stanford as George Gannon, a man with a critical connection to the Dodson case. Molly Ephraim as Hazel Prystock, Street's fellow boarding house tenant and romantic partner. Gretchen Mole as Linda Mason, Perry's ex-wife. Jenny O'Hara as June Pitlick, the owner of the boarding house where Street lives. Justin Kirk as Hamilton Berger, assistant district attorney offering Mason legal advice. Michael McMillian as Oliver Fogg, one of Della's fellow lodgers. Todd Weeks as Jim Hicks, an accountant who worked for George Gannon and others. Andrew Divoff as Al Howard, the owner of the casino where George Gannon worked. On August 15, 2016, it was reported that HBO was developing a drama series based on the Perry Mason stories written by Erle Stanley Gardner. The production was expected to be written by Nick Pizzolatto, who was also set to executive produce alongside Robert Downey Jr. and Joe Horacek. Production companies involved with the series were slated to consist of Team Downey. On August 25, 2017, it was announced that Pizzolatto had dropped out of the production in order to focus on the third season of True Detective and that he was being replaced as the project's writer by Rolin Jones and Ron Fitzgerald. The HBO revival and reboot adapted its setting to Great Depression-era Los Angeles, some 20 years earlier than the CBS show, but in line with the earliest novels by Gardner. On January 14, 2019, it was announced that HBO had given the production an order as a limited series. It was further announced that Jones, Fitzgerald, Susan Downey, and Amanda Burrell would serve as additional executive producers, that Matthew Rhys would serve as a producer, and that the production was in the process of hiring a director. Jones and Fitzgerald serve as showrunners for the series as well. In March, Tim Van Patten was announced as director and executive producer. On July 22, 2020, it was revealed HBO had decided to turn Perry Mason into a regular series, renewing it for a second season. Alongside the initial development announcement, it was confirmed that Robert Downey Jr. would star as the titular Perry Mason. On July 25, 2018, it was reported that Downey had dropped out of the role due to his feature film schedule and that a search for his replacement was ongoing. On January 14, 2019, it was announced that Matthew Rhys had been cast to replace Downey. Tatiana Maslany joined in April. John Lithgow was added to the cast in May. In June, Chris Chalk and Shea Whigham were cast in lead roles, with Nate Cordry, Veronica Falcon, Jefferson Mays, Gail Rankin, and Lily Taylor set in recurring roles. Juliette Rylance, Andrew Howard, Eric Lang, Robert Patrick, and Stephen Root joined in July. Justin Kirk would be added in October. On review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, Season 1 holds an approval rating of 77% based on 77 reviews, with an average rating of 7.35/10. The site's critics' consensus reads, brimming with top-notch performances and dripping in style, Perry Mason's compelling mystery more than makes up for its somewhat messy story. On Metacritic, the season has a weighted average score of 67 out of 100, based on 37 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Ben Travers of IndieWire said that Season 1 is built with confidence, patience, and a voice calibrated for today's audiences and gave it a B+, writing, Perry Mason stands as an astounding visual feat for its specific framings as well as its overall world building. There are striking images of a pitch-black profile and lavish outdoor shots of real Los Angeles locations. In some shows, intimate conversations between two people can clash with the grander scenes. Mason has the intuition and the budget to not just balance visual opulence with smaller, private moments, but to blend them. With 1.7 million viewers across all platforms, more than Watchmen, 1.5 million, and The Outsider, 1.2 million, the debut of Perry Mason was the strongest of any HBO series for 2 years.